Another day in the crypto market, followed by another massive liquidation event. We just witnessed $500 million worth of crypto longs liquidated in the past hour. Now, this was earlier today, and this has essentially heated up to over $1 billion. That's right, we're now over $170 billion wiped out of the market after we had $1 billion in liquidations hit the market. And we have here Bitcoin falls below 110K as crypto market loses $170 billion. On the 25th, the cryptocurrency market experienced a sharp decline, erasing over $170 billion in capitalization as Bitcoin dropped to a low of 107.8K before stabilizing around 109K, down 3.7% for the day. Ethereum also fell close to almost 8% to 38, almost 3,900, triggering more than 1 billion in liquidations, primarily from long positions on exchanges like Bybit and Binance. And when we think about this, right, the main focus here is that September is typically a weak month for crypto regardless. But we've been going through this cycle where everyone is like, all right, well, that's it. It's the end of crypto. Crypto is done. The market's topped. We're going into a bear market. And we have been dealing with this since going all the way back to roughly January of this year. So this has been going on for 8 months now, where everyone's saying, all right, it's over. Oh no, we're fully back. And then it's already going back to like the whole idea of, oh, it's over again. Because again, when we think about this market, I mean, listen, most of the gains in this space has come from Bitcoin and Ethereum. I mean, yeah, we've been witnessing some nice growth from like a few altcoins like XRP, XLM, HBAR, and a few other ones. But if we're looking at this on the year, right? So like I said, on the year, there's definitely been a lot of outliers. But these yearly gains, it's 12 months, 300%, even 400%. Like these gains are not that crazy in crypto. Altseason is not where we're looking for 400% gains in 12 months. We're looking at like 400% gains in a week, 2 weeks. I mean, this is what I've been trying to really get across to a lot of people, is that we just have yet to see Altseason at scale. Looking at this on the daily, yes, it's a sea of red. There's a lot of altcoins down on the daily, like Flare's down 15.1%. For an example, Avalanche 11.9%, Aster down 7%, IP down 28+%. On the weekly, it's a deep sea of red as well. There's only a few outliers here, like for an example, Aster and even ZEC. But beyond that, it's just a very large sea of red. Bitcoin still hovering around 109K, Ethereum down to about 3,900, XRP at $2.75, and most of the market, I mean, if we're looking at like HBAR 21 cents roughly, XLM 35 cents or so, there hasn't really been, too much movement in the altcoin market. I know that there's been some significant drops here and there, but for the most part, some altcoins are still holding up pretty strong, which we'd like to see. But, looking at Bitcoin, this is what the last 1 month looks like on Bitcoin. So far, we are still holding higher lows here, which is something that we have been keeping a close eye on. This is what the chart looks like currently. So as you guys know, I was looking at a few levels holding roughly around like 109.6 to about 111.4K. We could scratch that off the chart. We did not hold that, but the good news is that we're still maintaining higher low structure going off of these lows from August. Now, we should be prepared to see a loss of those lows if we do see it. The best part about this is, if we have been stacking stablecoins, if we've been holding stablecoins on the sidelines, we are ready for this next big move. Main focus here is I'm looking at potentially the 104 to 106K level getting tapped. If we see this, and again, it all is determined by a loss of these lows. If we lose these lows here, we should start to see a significant drop down into these blue zones. Now, if we hold the first blue zone, aka the demand zone, that will be great. We could start to see a big bounce. This would essentially be very similar to this move back here in June, right before we had that great bullish July. We have that initial sell-off. Everyone thinks that this is the bottom. We have a nice little jump to the upside, fail to create a higher high. Then we start to chop and we create a lower low. From that point on, we start to break to the upside, create a higher low, chop, boom, we create a higher high. That's exactly what we should be looking at over here, is if we are going to create a lower low, we should start to create a higher high going off of this high from September, which is right around 118K. And that would allow us to create a new high on this chart going to like 130K. However, that's if we hold these lows here. If we don't, and we continue even lower, well then this next zone around 94 to about 97.9K, this would be the area that I would be looking at. And we could even go a little bit lower. I mean, listen, we could dip down below 90K technically and fill this fair value gap down here on the daily. And that would be around roughly 88.4K to about like 91.8K. And that wouldn't be a big problem at all. In fact, it's still a macro higher low, which would allow us to still, have that big push. But I don't want to see us go that low, and I don't think that we go that low anyways, just comparing it back to, previous times where we've had capitulation like back in April. I mean, our RSI is now close to those April lows. So, I would argue that we should be close to the bottom here. If I'm wrong, and I definitely could be, we are in for some pretty significant pain in the market. So I'm definitely watching to see if this is going to be our low. Now, the big thing that I'm sure everyone is focused on as well is XRP, which we'll get to XRP in a second. The thing is if Bitcoin does hold these lows, that's very beneficial for the entire market. Ethereum, though, with Ethereum, we really want to see Ethereum bounce back in a big way. Looking at this chart real quick, this is what the 1 hour looks like. If I throw this on the 3 hour, we're starting to see a nice little impulsive move here, but it's not that significant. Just looking at this on the daily, and realistically, if we, let's go and look at the chart over on TradingView because it's a little bit more accurate. I know that CoinMarketCap is a little bit rough. I do have this first blue zone that we did tap so far. This is right around roughly 3,700 to about 3,959. We're trading at 3,959 right now. I do also have this deep blue zone down here. This is, something that I would like for us to avoid. This is on higher time frame, by the way, this bottom one. The main thing about Ethereum on the daily that I'm looking at is those April lows, but then I'm looking at the RSI here. RSI just hit the lowest point since going all the way back to those April lows, which was the bottom of the cycle, right? That was the bottom back in April that allowed us to get to the point where we are at right now on both Bitcoin, even Ethereum, and even XRP. With Ethereum, if this is our bottom, which it definitely could be, okay? Again, let's go back to the 12-hour, looking at the 12-hour. The 12-hour RSI, extremely oversold, most oversold so far this cycle since going back to April. Even on the 4-hour, extremely oversold area. Again, going back to April, we're actually more oversold now than back in April. When we are looking at lower time frame structure, sorry, let me go back. When we're looking at lower time frame structure here on Ethereum, the main thing that we're focused on, especially on the daily, is flipping the previous support. We want to flip $4,073 and we want to build a floor on this. So, preferably just going a little bit sideways, building a floor, and then continuing to the upside. We still need to break this trend line. We probably rejected initially before breaking above it. And then that point, we could target a new all-time high going back to 2021, and that would be on the higher time frame support or higher time frame view. So the main thing here is we really want to see a little bit more out of Ethereum. It is about to be Friday. It's officially Friday by the time that this video does go live. Sunday is the weekly candle close. That's going to be very important for us to focus on when it comes to Ethereum. With XRP, again, main thing with XRP is we lost the previous lows on the daily. Looking at this on the 3-day, there's definitely still room for us to close above the previous low on the 3-day. And then also on the weekly, we still look pretty rough here. Ethereum could go, or XRP could still go much lower. simply because of RSI. It's not like Ethereum where we have such a significant low on the RSI. This is, really kind of still showing us that there is still room for us to go lower. The next zone on this chart, because we did not hold the blue zone and we did not hold the previous lows, if we do continue to drop on XRP, which it's really determined by what Bitcoin and Ethereum do, we should see this blue zone. This blue zone is around $2.30 to about $2.60. And I know that that's a significant zone for us to look at, but that's where I would be looking at stacked buys if I was late to this, XRP cycle, or if I wanted to stack more XRP. I still think that there's better opportunities right now in this market for ROI this cycle. However, I know that there's a lot of you that want to add to your XRP bag, and that's the zone that I would be looking at with XRP. Now, for anyone out there that's saying, oh, well, we got our first official rate cut on the 17th. It's been about 8 days. Why is this market not going absolutely insane? Well, let's look at a few things. Number one, the market should bounce back in a huge way. Here we have from bar chart. I did include this in the videos from around the 17th. This is when the Fed cuts interest rates within 2% of stock market all-time highs. The S&P 500 has gone on to finish higher over the next 12 months, 20 out of 20 times. This is a 100% hit rate. This should not change. We should see higher price action on the S&P, which should take crypto with it. Right now, stocks are selling off. I don't think that I need to tell you guys that. If we go to the S&P, here we have the S&P. I did chart this in the Discord. For anyone that's in the Discord, I said that we should be dropping on the S&P. This could definitely have a little bit more pain in it, which is why I said, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they still could go lower. I would be hoping for a bottom here soon, though. I think that we are close to it. But stocks could definitely go much lower because RSI just started to drop and we're still at around 60. But regardless of this, right, the S&P should continue much higher. But going off of this, we also have this update. Now, this is from JP Morgan, and this is 100% correct. So JP Morgan on the Fed rate cuts this morning. When the Fed cuts rates within the S&P 500 within 1% of an all-time high, it results in an average return of 15% over the next 12 months, aka the S&P does very well over the next 12 months. However, lower time frame. Furthermore, according to our research, 1 month performance is more spotty, with stocks ending lower 50% of the time. Now, if we think about this, typically after the first official Fed rate cut of the year, we see a fake out. That's why I personally think that all of this negative price action, all of this negative pressure in this market, this is a fake out. I think that this move, this sell-off is fake. Could it go much deeper? Yeah, it definitely could. However, I think that this is just to shake the tree. I think that we are witnessing a major shakeout event because looking at the Fed rate cut schedule, we are expecting another 2 rate cuts this year. And if we're thinking about that, okay, this is going to make money easier to borrow. It's going to still impact the market in a positive way, but also stocks should continue higher. On top of that, we know that there's a massive amount of money in money market funds. We know that stocks and gold will most likely get a little bit more boring towards the end of this year, which should also allow crypto to pump higher, and money market funds should definitely be looking at where to park some of their money. And also, this is at a time where we have yet to see alt season. Now is the time to lock in and focus on the big picture. Yes, we are seeing a major sell-off. Yes, it's all caused by liquidations. Yes, this was originally triggered by market manipulation because it was over the weekend. I still think that that's like a major impact on why we're seeing the sell-off, but I really do think that this is a fake out. I would not be panicking at this point. I'm not too concerned at all with this. I'm going to be focused on this going into the weekend as well. Weekend price action is a little bit more spotty because of, again, manipulation. But I'm definitely watching the weekly market close a little bit more closely. But beyond that, I would not be too concerned about this. We've seen so many liquidation events like this so far this year. This sell-off is not that severe at all. I mean, in the last 7 days, we're down about 6.6% on Bitcoin. On the 1 month, we're down about like 1.5%. On the daily, we're down about 3%. I'm not too concerned at all with this. I mean, we've witnessed major drops this year already. This is just a very shallow one in comparison. So I'm not too concerned with this. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.